Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of FiST Chat, the vodcast that features discussions on the topics of film, science and technology. My name is Ben Warner and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague Steve Kern. How you doing there, Steve? Hope you're keeping warm over there because it's
Hi,
fairly...
FiST Chat fans. Yes, it is very cold. Of course, in the southern hemisphere, it's the middle of winter. So.
Yeah, I'm just glad we passed the solstice the other week and we're marching back towards summer.
Oh, yes. I long for summer.
Absolutely. So just a bit of housekeeping. Don't forget our website, www.fistchat.com. You can get all our links there. Make sure you interact with us on Facebook and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. You can get all our videos on YouTube, Vimeo and Digicosm TV. Right back to the beginning of last year. We got this is episode 75, so we've got quite a bit that we've done now. And you can also subscribe to us on iTunes and RSS. Listen to us on your iPhone or whatever other smartphone you've got. We'd love to be on your device there. And we've also got a lot of weekly blogs and all sorts of other things that you can check out. Okay, we'll rip right into it. Now, this is a bit of a different, maybe we've talked about this before, but this is a bit of a different angle that we're taking it from today. Sadly, a prolific female Hollywood director died recently in Nora Ephron. She was 71 and she was responsible for films like Sleepless in Seattle and probably more famously, she wrote the script for When Harry Met Sally. So I think everyone, if you don't know what the scene in that's most memorable, then maybe you should go check it out. But what was interesting is that I guess for us is when I was reading a little bit about this, she was quoted as they quoted her as saying at one point that Hollywood really doesn't understand how to make movies for women. And which is probably true, because that's an audience that maybe won't go to see a film more than once, and that's not good for the bottom line.
Maybe Hollywood thinks that women won't go to see movies without their boyfriends.
Now, if we exclude like the teenage market that goes to Twilight, and they kind of act like, I don't know, Star Wars or Star Trek fanboys, but for vampire films, if you exclude that out, it's quite indicative of where Hollywood is really in terms of all this. I mean, just to take a step back, and we just talk about Ephron for a little bit. Very interesting person and had a very varied,
fascinating
career. Working in the JFK White House and then being married to Carl Bernstein and all of that stuff with the media and how she knew the deep throat sauce apparently and all of that stuff.
You see, this is the thing. Once upon a time, if you were a writer, and you were really good at your craft, you didn't have to be a writer of screenplays. If you could write, you could be recognised. Today, if you don't have a contract, people are probably not interested.
Well, what's interesting is that she helped her then husband Carl Bernstein write All the President's Men. Yeah. And because from a journalistic point of view, they weren't that happy with it, and somehow
good film.
Yeah, absolutely, and that sort of parlayed into her screenwriting career, which is quite interesting. And I think, regardless of whether you like the films or not, I think it's a really good testament that she was able to get through and be as successful as what she was and what she had to sort of work against. And I just think it's sad when this, obviously she's passed away and everything, but just on a broader scale, Hollywood just, maybe it's indicative, I think, that they just treat, say if, like, her films are successful, they'll treat them as flukes rather than, maybe this is a market we could chase.
Well, what are we going to say about Hollywood, Ben? We unfortunately, as much as we love Hollywood, it's love-hate, because they don't value good writing, and they don't value, anything except, the product. It's not even art anymore, it's a product. And I think, with the passing of someone like Nora Ephron, what you're seeing is that, just the true end of anyone involved in those golden era of Hollywood days, which ended in the 60s and 70s. And, back then you look at the quality blockbusters that they used to produce, and they were great films, really well crafted, the scripting, the acting, the, execution of the film, absolutely sensational. And they were great films made for adults. Today, we make, adult films for kids. And that's pretty much the way it's going. Acting doesn't matter, just as long as you've, made some money on the music charts, or you're good looking, or you got a lot of Twitter followers, or maybe you're famous for absolutely nothing except being dumb. It's a prerequisite. And, I think ever since Sylvester Stallone wrote, Over the Top, 2 minutes and a lunch break during Rambo 2, things have been going downhill.
Absolutely. It's just, it's amazing though. I mean, just to extend that further from what you were saying, it's just, it really doesn't matter almost what's in the film anymore. I know that, you can cynically say that, they'd make 2 hours of a film about grass growing, and if it made $1 billion, they wouldn't care. They'd put it out to as many cinemas as possible. But there is something to be said for the quality of the product. And I was actually just thinking of Pixar, because they've got a new film coming out, and the mantra there is that they will spend years trying to get that, the script honed till it's perfect. They spend so much time making the film, and then they make, obviously, almost all of their films are excellent. And whether Hollywood in general doesn't think it's worthwhile putting that investment in, who knows?
Well, Hollywood still spends years making sure that all the money's going to be right, and maybe not care that much about the film. I mean, I guess all it shows is that the forefathers of Hollywood, or modern Hollywood, were under the misapprehension that you needed to make a really good film to make a lot of money. And audiences today have proven that you don't need to make a very good film to make a lot of money.
Yeah,
we're very forgiving. We're very forgiving. I mean, I sometimes feel quite hypocritical. I sit here and I criticise Hollywood, and I still go and see their films.
Yeah, well, I do the same, but I have to say I don't probably see them as much as what I used to. But maybe just if we sort of bring this wrap this up a little bit. I think again, it's a testament to Nora Ephron's achievements as a director, and a female director at that, in an industry that's pretty much dominated by men, and that she was able to get through and do it well from the directing point of view, anyway, and the producing point of view.
Well, just the 2 films that she's probably best known for, Sleepless in Seattle and When Harry Met Sally. Like you say, it doesn't really matter whether it's your genre or not. If you watch them, they're well-written films. They're good films, and we don't get to see enough of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, we'll move on to news bites now, and starting with film, we'll stick with. We're still on Hollywood in a sense, in that we're going to talk about Minority Report now, and I happened to come across this story where. And maybe this is a good example of what Hollywood should be doing, really. It's Spielberg had no idea what the future should look like for his film, but he knew that he had to put something authentic on screen to match the, what was the story was about and everything. So
but Spielberg is old school. He comes from that golden era of Hollywood where, he does everything he can. He does his research, and he tries very hard to get things right.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at what he did for Minority Report, was to get an actual think tank together, and actually so that these guys would suggest to him what should be on screen. And I mean, if you have a look at it, there's gesture-based interfaces with computers, and a lot of what you see in the film are natural extensions of some of the things we're starting to see now with tablets, smartphones, and whatever else. So it's a very believable type of scenario that he's been able to put on screen, which doesn't always happen in science fiction.
It doesn't, but, this is once again where, as you say, Spielberg actually takes the time to think about these things and to get them right. And really interestingly, this is a favourite topic of FiST Chat, Ben, where we talk about science fiction becoming science fact. because science fiction isn't just about making stuff up. It's about looking at where we are today and seeing what might be in the future. And it's probably no surprise when you look at who we had on that team that they actually have created, a future that really does stand the test of time.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. All right, we'll move on to our science news bite, and this was quite curious. We got an extra leap second this year, and that's due to Earth's wacky rotational period. You want to just mention how that works, Steve? It's quite interesting.
Well, it's probably it's not as big a thing as I guess it would seem. I mean, it is big. A second is huge in terms of what it means for the Earth to be out by that much. But the reality is that it's nothing that we're all going to freak out about or perhaps even notice. But from time to time, the Earth might speed up or slow down depending on gravitational effects, and there are a lot of gravitational effects around us, not just the sun, not just the moon, but also other bodies in space. And, in fact, the Earth is a giant magnet, and all of these things interact. And the Earth, not being perfect, speeds up or slows down, so we've had to add an extra second.
Well, it's just a reminder that we're living in a dynamic universe, isn't it? That you could almost take for granted that as we go about day to day, going to work, going to school, going to whatever, that everything is static and remains the same. The sun comes up every day, goes down every day, and there isn't this concept for us, I guess, that things are really changing a lot, and we don't really notice it.
It is, and this is one thing that this gets back to, I guess, things like climate change, and that the Earth's climate hasn't always been this way. And we tend to think, wherever I'm living, that's how life is. But, the whole world could be just like it is at either the Arctic or Antarctic poles if things change, or, the whole world could just become bone-dry desert. Both of these are extreme things. And who knows what the triggers for those things might be, but, never take for granted what we've got on this planet, because anything could happen.
That's right. It could all be gone one day.
It will all be gone one day, about 5 million years, actually.
Absolutely.
But I'm not hanging around for that.
No, absolutely. All right, and finally our technology news bite. And, we talked about, obviously, the Apple's recent announcements. We know how well the iPad's doing. We touched briefly on the Surface from Microsoft last week. So we better talk about Google's latest offerings. And well, if we start on the tablet, they've got the Nexus 7, which apparently is aimed more at the Amazon's Kindle Fire than the iPad, because I guess they want to, go up the rungs one step at a time rather than trying to taking on the tablet. I mean, I don't know. Is this just another white elephant that might not get anywhere?
Oh, who knows? I mean, this is definitely. I know in Australia the latest Kindle hasn't really had much impact against the iPad, which I think in Australia is 96% of all tablet sales or something ridiculous like that. So, but in the States, there's a real competition there, and you've got Amazon actually making a bit of a dent in the tablet market up against the iPad, and I guess Google's probably just going for the softest target they can. I mean, the iPad's got such a head start. How do you compete?
But what's really interesting is that the iPad, given its pricing, is really a premium product. And, you would think that some competitor somewhere would be able to create that entry-level tablet, which is what the Kindle Fire has come closest to being. And it seems like the Kindle Fire's not done too bad. I actually have a colleague at work that showed me once a Kindle Fire because he procured one off of eBay through the States. Wow. So
very nice.
Yeah, and it's a nice little tablet. I mean, it's not as not as whiz bang as an iPad, but it definitely is more than enough for most people, especially if it's just about reading books, consuming content.
I think, though, that the other thing for Google on this, though, is they don't really have a very strong mobile platform like, the iCloud or, Microsoft have. So I think, you know, they have to go to the tablet to get that mobile device, so people really have to use their cloud. I mean, it's no problem using the Google servers, you know, on your desktop, but nobody really, you know, if people aren't picking up tablets, you know, with Google or powered by Google or using the Google cloud, then that's where they're going to get marginalised. So I think probably strategically they might be trying to wedge their way in there.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to say the least, but if on a side thing, if Facebook releases a tablet, then I'm just gonna switch off from the whole thing.
Unlike.
Absolutely. All right, just to finish up, I just wanted to recommend Apple's got a new podcast app. It was actually announced as part of iOS 6, but it actually is now available to download now for your iPhone. And I recommend,
are we on there?
We're on there, so that's why I'm recommending that everyone get it. Download the app and then download us to listen to. So that's absolutely what we need to have happen.
Very good. I'm doing that straight away.
Absolutely. Steve, you got anything else you want to recommend at this stage, or any final notes?
Just that the Chinese astronauts safely returned after 3 days up in space, which is a great sign for space exploration, I guess.
Absolutely, and that there's a third player apart from the traditional Americans and Russians and whatever else.
That's right. It's great to see that I guess somebody else is interested in space besides Richard Branson and Galactic.
Yeah, in your 8-minute space trip. But we'll touch on that some other time. All right, Steve, thanks again for the chat. It's always good.
No worries. Bye, everyone. Tweet us.
Absolutely. So that's it for this week's episode. So we'll catch you next week.